Good day. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for West Hartford Cable Access TV and the Preventive Medicine Center. If you have any questions about this show, please contact us at the Preventive Medicine Center, www.thepmcpreventivemedicinecenter.org, www.thepmc.org. Happy New Year to the Jewish population that is watching this. And of course, happy holidays to anybody who wants to celebrate. I do believe that we can all join together and be friendly with one another. Now, today's show doesn't really have a focus. You know I'm going to talk about diet, but let's talk about some other things. First of all, the Brett Kavanaugh issue is coming up. I only heard it once, but I think this woman, Ford, who is making accusations against Kavanaugh, said that this memory was a provoked memory. Now, I may have that wrong, but it was like she didn't know it until it was brought out during some kind of session. That means it also could have been generated by the circumstance that she was in at that time. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm just saying there's a whole lot of things that don't look right here. The lateness with which this happened, the fact that Dianne Feinstein knew about this long ago, and so on and so on. All right, enough of that. That's not really my wheelhouse is the correct word. Or as I was told by one of my patients, why don't I stay in my own lane? You know that's not possible when it comes to me. So a number of things today, show and tell. We'll see how long that lasts. I used to be a catalog guy. I got all kinds of catalogs. Hammacher Schlemmer is one of the highest quality catalogs, and I went to that store when I recently went to New York City. My friend had an umbrella that had broken. He took it back. They gave him a brand new one. I believe the umbrella was a couple years old. Things are guaranteed lifetime by Hammacher Schlemmer. You may pay more, but you get more. Next, I think that's kind of clever. Next, let's see what's in our grab bag. Okay, this is a diuretic. This is Taurusamide. For all of you who are on furosemide or Lasix, this is my belief and some proof, bear in mind I'm a board-certified cardiologist, that this is a better diuretic than furosemide or Lasix. And there is proof to that effect. Harvest. I got these matches at Harvest. That's a restaurant on LaSalle near Brico and between Lux Bond and Brico. I actually like this restaurant. It has a wonderful, wonderful feel. Their food is really quite good. I would say that probably the best food in West Hartford is Grant's and Max's Oyster Bar. This is close enough for me, and the people in here are amazingly friendly. I strongly recommend it for its feel. They open up the windows. It has a lot of wood on the side, aged wood. Camilo and Jorge are the managers there. So Harvest gets a recommendation from me, as does Bill Bouquet. I don't know how to pronounce it. Bill Bouquet, a French restaurant in New York City, where I had a wonderful lentil salad at lunchtime with my friend that I call my mini Mayo Clinic. In other words, it's the entire Mayo Clinic wrapped up in one person, JT Guy, MD. He and I are close friends. We fought starting in the 8th grade and then went through high school together. We were just naturals. We hung out through college, room together in med school, and basically, I call him the smartest person in the world, and then I think I'm so clever when I say, because he is. He seems to just know everything. We write nasty poetry back and forth to each other, and his is so funny. It is so funny, it is so literate, it is so clever, it is so well designed. How about me? Well, mine's pretty good and occasionally quite original, but like I say, if my friend is the smartest person in the world, I can't take a thing away from him. So anyhow, we went to BLT Steakhouse, where it was easy enough to order vegan entrees. I am not completely vegan. My sort of favorite meat alternative, or my favorite vegetarian, vegan alternative is shrimp. And so I ordered shrimp there, and they were actually quite good. But I like to, when I drink, which is seldom, by the way, I think, did you see that article about even one drink a day causes a decrease in life expectancy? I have been saying that for forever. We are supposed to drink clean water, breathe clean air, eat a diet that is 90+% unprocessed whole foods and ideally organic vegan. 90% is not 100%. I don't like being rigid about anything, although I'm rigid about one thing: no dairy products. No dairy products. Cancer of the prostate, this is what I believe, and there is proof: cancer of the prostate, cancer of the breast, breast cysts, menstrual cramps, endometriosis, enlarged prostate. That one I'm not so sure of. I think that one's coffee. Anyhow, cancer of the ovaries, bunions, those are my list of toxicities from dairy products. Breathe clean air, drink clean water, eat a 90+%, that would mean like twice a week for a normal person, average person, not an athlete, to have animal protein, palm-sized serving, my palm for me, your palm for you, is my best guess. And there's plenty of evidence to support this. My vegan patients have perfect blood pressure, perfect cholesterol, perfect triglycerides, perfect diabetes test, perfect waist circumference. They just have everything. Now, admittedly, people who are drawn to being vegan tend to be a little bit different. But I do have a number of essentially healthy vegan patients who are perfectly normal. You might say, well, why do we want all the fish and the chicken and the turkey and the meat and the cheese and the egg and the cakes and the cookies? You have to understand addiction. And addiction has to do with cigarettes, alcohol, heroin, caffeine, meat, cheese, eggs, cakes, cookies, chips, crackers. Number one, the things that we like are readily available, so we're constantly surrounded by it. They're advertised all the time. And frankly, in the short term, they make you feel better. I often point out, as I have several times on this show, the best meal, the tastiest meal I ever had was a lobster and cream at a restaurant in Montreal, Canada, and it was phenomenally delicious. Now, what about brown rice, vegetables, beans, fruit? That can be made to taste really quite good. You need somebody like Mary Lawrence to prepare it for you because she has that extra dimension. And that's something I should talk about, extra dimension. There are physicians, there are psychiatrists, yes, they are physicians, there are cooks, there are people with just that extra dimension of understanding beyond what it is that they are. Obviously, I'd like to put me in that category and hope that I am. So going on, we're supposed to breathe, drink, eat, exercise to the point of being trim. That gets harder and harder as you get older because, first of all, you tend to do a little more of this and that you shouldn't, and that puts on the weight and so on and so on. So again, to deal with weight, it's easier to control weight being vegan, much easier. I had an interesting experience coming home from New York on the train. I sat down beside a guy who I guessed was 86 years old and he was 87. I thought that was pretty good guessing. I didn't really look at him because it's kind of hard to sit there and turn like that, but I looked at him a few times. He was trim, perfectly trim. He had clear skin from lots of exercise. Then he told me about his investment background, and he was very well-to-do. And he was going up to some retreat in Northampton where there are no cell phones and there is an outdoor toilet and so on and so on. It's a group of men who started getting together. Many of them were involved in the psychological field, psychiatry, psychology, and so on. He'd had a degree from Yale in divinity, is what started this, but then that wasn't his natural thing. If you want to know what to do, it's what your passion is. If you haven't found your passion, keep looking. My passion is medicine. And if you have a passion, pursue it. And you'll have to pursue it against all obstacles, against incessant resistance, whether it's tough courses or bad teachers or seeming inability at the moment. Push through whatever it is. You will be happier over the course of your lifetime. So anyhow, so he introduced me to something that I sort of knew a little bit about. And one of them was the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Oh, I have something to show you. The swords of the samurai were made of steel like this. This is a Japanese knife. And you can't see it, but yes, you can. There is a grain in this. And this knife is a little on the heavy side. I have two other knives. One is thin, like this. One is thinner and one is smaller. And the smaller one is the one I use. But this knife has such a wonderful feel. I bought it at Bed Bath & Beyond. I had their usual 20% certificate. And so I got this. It was under $100, but that's not cheap for a knife. But if you could see this, it's beautiful. It's incredibly sharp, and it is a pleasure to use this. So in the movie The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise is learning how to sword fight against the master. And one of the students around tells him, no mind. And no mind means get the clutter out of the way. I watched a video by Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish is really something special. You ought to read his book. You ought to watch him when you can. You ought to attend any lectures you can. This was his being interviewed at the World Economic Forum. By the way, this fellow on the train asked me about when are they going to get a cure for cancer. And I got a little bit obscene, not against him, but because of the reality of the world, the cure for cancer is known. Don't make it happen. Don't make cancer happen, and it doesn't occur at a huge percentage. Now, there are some innocent bystanders. I don't know what causes acute myelogenous leukemia. I don't know whether it's a virus that gets in there, but the question is, why is the immune system not up to dealing with this? And so what is it that would prevent the development of cancers? Breathing, drinking, eating, exercise to the point of trim, meaning not be overweight. And I'm not an innocent bystander. I could do better. And then the last one is unrealistic expectations. So I'm coming to the unrealistic expectations. That's a little bit of a stretch. So in the movie Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai, is told that he's too focused on what's going on. He has to have no mind. Well, this fellow who was sitting beside me had converted to being a Buddhist. And so what he was talking about, oh, I got the halfway signal. Now look, we're going to go over today. This program's going to last an hour and a half because I've got so much to tell you. So we're going to go on with Tom Cruise now. So the student, who is a bow and arrow specialist, says, no mind. And Tom Cruise gets this idea that he sort of has to quit being himself and he has to get in touch with just being there with his sword. It wasn't a sword, it was a stick. And he ends up tying this master. But my friend on the train said to me, no body, no mind. And of course, I immediately thought of the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise when he said no mind. And I sort of get that. Now, what is that good for? Going back to Dean Ornish talks about the same kinds of things that I do. Diet, exercise, close associations, what we could call love. And then Dean Ornish talks about meditation. Well, this fellow was talking about meditation. Now, why is meditation good? Why is no body, no mind, sitting there quietly? You don't have to say Om Shanti Renge Kyo, whatever it is. I'm sorry, I apologize. Om Shanti Renge Kyo. I guess that's the whole thing. You don't have to do that, or you don't have to go Om. You sit there and you clear your mind. And what does that do? That gets you to clean things up. Do you know what vacations are about? They're about cleaning out the cobwebs and the invading forces in your mind. And that's what meditation can do for you. So it is a method. I use a nasty word called a trick. All diets have a trick to them. What about the Atkins diet? What about the paleo diet? What about the this, that, and the other diet? They all have a trick in them that draws people to them, that makes them be successful for some people. The most important part of most diets is simply getting down to your proper weight. And what is that proper weight? It is not a BMI. It is abdominal clear lines of definition and demarcation. When you look down at your tummy, can you see where the muscles meet the muscles? And that is a really tough road to hoe. But when you do that, and you're essentially vegan, essentially, not absolutely. Now by vegan, I don't mean donuts and white flour pasta and Wonder Bread. I mean brown rice, vegetables, beans, fruit, nuts, and seeds. And those are unprocessed, ideally organic foods to be consumed 19 of 21 meals a week with wild-caught fish or free-range chicken or cage-free eggs or bison, all of those added up together, up to twice a week, if you're trim. If you're not trim, you could, what I tell my patients, some listen, some don't, you can have one of those once every 10 days. But your only friend when you're overweight, only friends, are berries, no other fruit, cooked vegetables and vegetable soups, excluding potatoes. Now, that's something that I sort of learned by experience. That's not written down as scientific dogma, but if you think about it, that's an ideally organic, unprocessed, whole foods diet. And what about your protein? Your protein is beans, ideally, although grains can be an acceptable substitute. Quinoa, brown rice, hulled, meaning whole, hulled barley, millet, amaranth, teff, buckwheat, those are all co-equal. What about the beans? Red beans, navy beans, lima beans, black-eyed peas, split peas, chickpeas. So I say berries, cooked vegetables, vegetable soup, and beans. And except for the berries, all of those are cooked because raw food makes you hungry. All right, enough of that. We're moving on. This is some epinephrine injectors that I've kept that my son gave me because he discards them when it says to discard them. I do not believe these have lost their potency. I do not believe that medicines lose their potency. There was one case of toxicity with tetracycline, an antibiotic, a number of years ago, that it caused some really major problems. I believe it was Fanconi syndrome, but I'm not sure. In any case, almost all pills are good for forever. Which brings me to the flu shot. If you're getting the flu shot and if you're under the age of 65, there is a low dose. It's only 40% of the original dose, 40% of 0.5 milliliters, and the needle is 90% smaller. The studies have long been done. If the injection goes subcutaneous, it's a very short needle, 90% smaller, thinner, only 40% of the amount is injected compared to the full half milliliter, 0.5 cc's of the regular flu shot. Demand insists on the low dose subcutaneous flu shot is my suggestion. I make no demands. Ashwagandha. If I had to pick out one Indian herb that I think you ought to take, don't take any supplement more than 5 days a week, it would be ashwagandha. Now there are some others that are sort of fit certain needs and so on, but this is my pick of the litter for Indian herbs. PB8. This is my probiotic of choice. You can get this online, you can get this at Whole Foods, you can get this at Limbs and Capaco. What I say is the correct dose is 2 a day, 4 to 5 days a week. Remember, don't take any supplement more than 5 days a week unless I tell you to. Now, when people have vitamin D deficiency, which I believe most people do, I tell them to take vitamin D, usually 5,000 units, 5 days, every day, until I get their level up to 50 to 66 nanograms per ml. That is not nanomoles, that's nanograms. All right, for the men in the audience, Prostate Pro by Therapeutics, I think, is the top prostate supplement. You have to get this online. I think you get this at Amazon, although there is a website that they tell you can go to. Prostate Pro. The name of the company is not what you think it is. It is T-E-R-A-P-U-T-I-C-S. And yes, I have no economic connection with anybody or any of the items I have mentioned. Arthromax Elite by Life Extension Foundation. This is a combination of acacia, Chinese skullcap, mulberry, Kutch tree. I think that it's much better and safer than Advil and Tylenol. It's good for arthritis. It's not perfect. I'd much rather have you using this. What dose is this? This is 650 milligrams in 1 vegetarian tablet. That's the correct dose. 1 of these a day if you need it, if you have arthritis. Immune Renew. Flu season is coming up. This is a Now is a manufacturer. Immune stimulant. It's made up of medicinal mushrooms, and I believe in this. I have patients who take this during the winter months, and they don't get the flu. Now, you might say, well, what about the flu shot? Well, not everybody wants the flu shot. If you have to take it, as I have to take it, because I work at St. Francis Hospital, and they sort of won't let me in unless I get my flu shot, so I'm not going to lie. Immune Renew is what I suggest. It would be 2 of these 5 days a week. If you get sick, I say 2 twice a day, 5 days a week. Oh my gosh, 5 minutes. Show and tell, magnesium. Almost everybody, except my vegan patients, are low in magnesium. And I believe this fights off diabetes, which is an increasingly common condition, as is simple glucose intolerance. If you have normal kidney function, 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 I believe you should be taking magnesium until your blood level is 2.1 up to 2.4. So now I've suggested that you check your vitamin D level, 25 hydroxy vitamin D3 level at 50 to 66 nanograms per ml as proper blood level of that, and a magnesium level of 2.1 to 2.4, I believe, fights diabetes. Brazil nuts. Yeah, I brought Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts fight cancer, I believe. They contain selenium, and selenium fights cancer. Do I want you taking selenium? No, that can be overdone. So 2 Brazil nuts a day, I believe, fights off cancer, along with everything else, ideally. If you have skin rashes, this stuff is phenomenal. This comes from, this is Aromatic Body Butter by Health and Beauty Dead Sea Minerals. Aromatic, and oh Lord, why am I forgetting their name? It's that Mediterranean store down on Kenyon Street in Hartford. Aromatic Body Butter combined with Advanced Healing Ointment. I can't tell you how many skin conditions I've cleared up with that combination. Advanced Healing Ointment is also petroleum jelly, which is what Vaseline is, but I recommend the CVS brand Advanced Healing Ointment with the Aromatic Body Butter from Tangiers. Tangiers is the name of that Mediterranean store on Kenyon Street and Farmington Avenue in Hartford in the 06105 zip code. So that's wonderful for skin rashes. I'm getting to the bottom. Also for skin conditions, this is wonderful. This is Argan Oil. There's a funny story about Argan Oil, but you can get this at Trader Joe's and it's not that expensive. I think it's $7. Absolutely wonderful for the skin. So that's my recommendation. Well, oh, what have I got in here? Oh, ranitidine and aspirin. If you're on aspirin, I would have you take a ranitidine, which is the generic name for Zantac. This is the 81 milligram low-dose aspirin, which, by the way, the heavier you are, you need a little bit more. So I recommend 81 milligrams twice a day if you're over like 180, 190 pounds. And I usually don't recommend the enteric coated. I personally don't tolerate aspirin, so I don't take it. But if you take it, there is an increased incidence of bleeding, which for the most part is the stomach and intestines. And so that means if you reduce stomach acid, you're less likely to have a problem. 2 minutes. So a big study just came out that said that aspirin did more harm than good. My mini Mayo Clinic buddy, when I say mini Mayo Clinic, I'm saying that he's the entire Mayo Clinic compressed into MINI, one small person. And he says, he quoted me, he said, that study is a case of asking the wrong question and getting the wrong answer. That's a quote from me. Sometimes I get smart, not often. Anyhow, if you take aspirin, then I think you should take Zantac, ranitidine, every other day or so, because the risk of stomach bleeding is increased if you do take aspirin, and you'll lose the benefit of taking the aspirin. In any case, I think interfering with stomach acid is one of the bad things we do. So why do I recommend it? First of all, that Zantac ranitidine is not as strong as the PPIs, Prilosec, omeprazole, esomeprazole, Zantac, esomeprazole, which is Nexium, Dexilant. All of those, I think, are too strong and are creating problems. There are ways to get off those and switch to more natural product. Well, I got the 1 minute sign. I'm sorry, I guess I fibbed. This is not going to be an hour and a half. Good day and God bless you all. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. Hope you found this entertaining.